Hi everyone, and welcome to my 10 questions with video series where I interview virtual assistants and find out more about their business. So, question one, who are you? Tell me about your business.
Hi, I'm Carol Poole, and my business is PA Your Way, which has been going for about 4 years. 4 years this month.
Wow.
Yeah, and I am
So
based
tell me
in
about yourself. Sorry.
yeah. So I'm based in Loughborough, right in the centre of England. Not English, come from Scotland, but I've lived here a very long time. Yeah, I set up my business the idea came to me after finding your website, Joe. And the idea came to me, oh my goodness, I wonder if this is something I could do. And I started to look into it during the pandemic, as a lot of people did. And people had a bit of my life is not how I want it to be. And started to think, how can I make changes that would, make my work-life balance better? Found your website and decided that I would look into being a VA, and here we are 4 years later.
Wonderful. So do you have kids at home, pets or
Yes.
anything?
Yes. So I'm married. I have one son who's 11. He's just started secondary school. And I kind of fell into that trap where when he was quite young, when he was born, I went through IVF and then had a premature baby. And I decided very early that I wanted to be there for him. So the job that I did was part-time. I was an account manager. I had a company car. I loved my job. But unfortunately, the company went under. Maybe a year after I'd gone back. And who's going to hire somebody part-time and give them a company car if you haven't worked for the company already? It's just not going to happen. So I then fell into that working mum trap of being paid a pittance or having to work full time or having to do a job that just bored me senseless. I mean, I worked for the NHS for a while, ordering hand sanitizer before it was a thing. And I just felt completely unfulfilled, but then didn't want to take on a job where I'd have constant mum guilt of working full time and not being there for him. So yeah, I started to look into things to do and stumbled across your website. I can't remember exactly what led me to you, but I know that when I started looking, that it was your stuff that I found straight away, and I just loved the tone. I could relate to your content. I could relate to how you spoke. And I just thought, oh my goodness, and I then sort of took in as much of your information as I could. And yeah, I decided that this would be something I would do. And could it work to give me more freedom, give me more money, and let me do something that kept my brain alive? And I started doing it alongside my boss, who I'd been his PA for years. He was very, very generous and let me half my hours, and I started doing it alongside. And then within a few months, it became apparent that I needed to just leave my other job. So in summer of 2021, I stopped working as an employee, and I've been self-employed ever since doing this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you as well for the compliments on my website. I'll never get my head out the
Yeah.
door.
Mm.
So with question two, you've kind of touched on this a little bit. So question two was going to be, what did you do before becoming a VA, and like what was the catalyst? So really, it was with the NHS and with your son. They were the two.
So it was definitely my son. But I thought I would be in the job with the company that I was working for when I went on maternity leave. I thought I would be with them. But if I'm completely honest, my boss left and I didn't like the new boss particularly. And there were some issues with the company, and I wasn't fulfilled. So who knows whether if that company had kept going, I would have stayed there, or whether I'd still have found my path down this road. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for me, it was all about um, the flexibility to be there for my son, and to know that if I needed to go to appointments or anything with school or anything at all that he was involved in, I wanted to be able to know that I could go. And to know that if I didn't want to work for one day, for when he was little, if I wanted to have a day off with him, I'd be able to do these things without having to ask somebody. Um, but then it's also very much I've my background has always been administration. Whichever job I've done has always heavily had the administrative side to it. And my background was actually, I worked in the travel industry for about 20 years, worked for an airline for 10 years, and then sort of progressed and managed travel agencies, online travel agencies. So that was my background. But then I worked in a couple of different industries after that, because I took a year out to travel after I got married. And then when I came back in 2008, the economy was just, I couldn't get a job in travel. No one was booking travel. So I did different industries, and I saw then that it was quite easy if you've got a firm administrative background to learn the industry, but all of the kind of core skills are the same. And I thought I could take this into doing this for people freelance. And yeah, I was right.
Amazing. So let's have a look. We've got question 3. What was your biggest fear about starting your business, and how did you overcome that?
So definitely, I had never even once thought of being self-employed. It had never been on my radar. I was an employee. I'd done it since I was at YTS when I left school. Um, Massive, massive fear of imposter syndrome. Massive fear of I will never be able to do it. And one of my big fears, and this came from a lot of the research I was doing to start with, was, and I see quite a lot of people mentioning this in the VA Handbookers group, is, oh my goodness, what about all the technology? What about all the systems? What about, and that was a big fear for me because I'm not particularly tech savvy. I've been a Microsoft person my whole career, and I'm not very good at, so I'm not very tech savvy, and I'm also not very IT proficient. So my real big fear was, what happens if something breaks and I haven't got the IT man at the end of the corridor, or I haven't got the IT man at the end of the phone? And that nearly put me off at times. But then when you start to look at things in bite-sized chunks, really, you don't have to know all this technology. You don't have to you use what you need and you use what your clients need. And there are IT men out there that you can pay monthly, as I do, who are at the end of the phone and can remote
Me
on
too.
Teams,
Yeah.
like you would do in an office. But I had no
Yeah.
knowledge of any of this, but only having ever been an employee. Yeah, I think it was just a lot of, was it the fear of the unknown, the fear of stepping out of that comfort zone and thinking I will be at home on my own and just left to my own devices with no support team and not people at the water cooler to go and talk to, which is again, VA handbookers and now the VA All-Stars for me are amazing because you've got that team there to help when you've got
Yeah.
questions, and there is somebody out there that will have the same, ask the same question or been in the same situation as you are, and it's great.
Somebody knows the answer
Yeah,
always, don't they? Or they kind
always.
of know somebody that does.
Yeah.
There's sort of more people helping. There's more. I was surprised actually at how much the skill of being able to use Google and work things out was,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more proper skills, because I was like,
Yes.
oh, I kind of knew my way around a spreadsheet a little bit. But
Yeah.
even in my previous job, or my last job, I remember my boss showing me how to data sort something in alphabetical order. I'd never had to do it. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't really use spreadsheets that much. It's other things that interest me. But I just thought, I had the opposite problem with you actually. It was a little bit of overconfidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always
Completely the
been quite
opposite for me.
I've always had a bit of overconfidence. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And because I can work things out, I think. Plus, I
Yeah.
also sort of started up and I already had a client when I was still working. So it was, I guess that helped as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because in the group, sometimes people still talk about something and I think, never heard of it, don't know what it is. And I will probably never need to use it. Like there's so many tools out there
Yeah.
that I think, like we
Yeah.
said, it depends on what you need. Some VAs, they specialize, say, in helping people with like video editing or something, and they will use platforms that I've never heard of, and I won't need to
Yeah.
use unless I suddenly go and do some video editing, and I'm like, oh, you know,
That's what that was. But it is, you get, We are, because we suffer a lot, women, particularly with imposter syndrome in the workplace, you do think about all the things that you won't be able to do. And it can be crippling and it can sort of stop the that belief, and then you don't move forward. But once you start doing it and try and drown out all the noise, you realize that a lot of the stuff you never even. I'm terrified of Canva. People find this very funny, but I am not creative. I am not system techie wise. And everybody says Canva is the easiest thing in the world to use. But I've tried to use the free version and I got so scared by it that I thought, how am I going to be a VA without Canva? Nobody's ever asked me to do anything on Canva because that's not the kind of clients I
Yeah.
work with.
Also, I guess as well, you could always outsource it. Like I've said to people
Yes.
many times, you don't have to do everything. Like you're
Yeah.
just a VA is a person that sorts shit out. So,
Get shit
if
done.
my
Yeah.
client, yeah, if my client wanted a website, I wouldn't learn how to make one. I'd go and get someone to do it. I'd
Yeah.
oversee it. So you could always outsource that task. You're not the only one. I mean, I love Canva, but I think also because Canva keeps as over the years they've added more and more features. So if you've been using it for a long time, you understand the basic stuff. So if you come to it for the first time, you're suddenly like, oh my God, there's all of these features. A lot of them I never use, I
Yeah.
know what I need. Um, but also they've built on, like I gave my mum an old mobile phone. So my mum never used a smartphone. So to
Oh,
her, mind blown. But I'm like,
yeah.
well, because I've been using one since like my late 20s,
Second nature.
20 odd years. Yeah, and they've got more complicated each time you get one, each
Yes.
time you get one. So we're building upon it's the
Yeah.
same with being a VA. You're always
Yeah.
building upon previous
Exactly.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when people see a new VA, when they come into the group, they're here, but they're seeing someone that was there, but has now slowly got to
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why
They're
All Stars is
comparing.
great. Yeah. Because we know that we can go in there and speak to people who are probably experiencing some of the same things that we are. Whereas if you put that post in handbookers, they'd be going, what does this mean?
We
Yeah.
run for the hills, it would freak them out.
Yeah.
There's many things that I don't post in the handbookers because I'm like, I know that the majority of the group are newbies,
Yeah.
or just sort of, researching. And I don't want to frighten them.
Frighten them
And it's
off.
the same with,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to like, because they'll go, oh, again, they think it's too much for me, it's not for me. And they have
Yeah.
that, they'll really have that sense of imposter syndrome, maybe, and lack of confidence. And suddenly I'm poking that lack of confidence by giving them even more examples of why they might not be able to do it. Those
Yeah.
they can, it's just not yet.
It's not on their radar yet. It doesn't have to be on their radar yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, or at all often.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Mm.
Yeah. So let's have a look. Where did we get to? Number 4. So how has your life changed since you became a VA?
Oh my goodness. Hugely. It's just impacted so much because I love my job. I love what I do. A lot of the days it doesn't feel like a job. I have met so many incredible people. I've met friends through networking and local business events. I have the flexibility that I just would never, and I know you can work for the most flexible employer under the sun. I mean, my old boss, who then quickly became one of my clients when I started off my business, um, he very much put into me that family comes first, and he was great. And he would let you have time off for everything. But you still had to ask for that time off. And we don't like asking for things as British people and as women, we don't like to ask for things. We feel like we're an inconvenience. So to know that I don't have to ask anybody for anything, is just so freeing because I've never had that since I've been at school. I've never had that. You always have to have permission from somebody to do something. And it's incredible. Something I've not managed to get my mindset out of, weirdly, to some extent, is the whole when I need to be online. And I know that a lot of that is based on my clients, but I do need to get better with myself of going, do you know what? I fancy an hour off. I'm just going to shut my laptop because who's looking for me? No one. It's me putting that pressure on myself. But I think I've been so institutionalized that it's going to take me a long time to get out of that.
Yeah. You think that you
Holiday.
have to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Some you think,
Yeah.
I don't actually, like,
No, I
who
don't.
said I can just, once the job's done, the task is done, I can go
Exactly.
and do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Holiday has been a huge. a huge change for me. I've been unfortunate where apart from the NHS, and I was only there for a couple of years, I had real kind of rubbish holiday entitlement. I left the travel industry where you could travel around the world for virtually no money at a drop of a hat. But then 9/11 happened and that all changed. So then after that, I went into industry where I got the bare minimum holiday. So my husband would then be left with lots of holiday days. I would have the bare minimum. Now, I'm having a week off in 2 weeks' time. I've got 2 weeks booked off at Easter. I've got 2 holidays in the summer. I've got October. And I can do all these things around school holidays. And yes, I can take my laptop with me and I can do bits where I want to do them. But it's so freeing because that entitlement, you don't have an entitlement. It's your business. You can take a holiday whenever you like. It's great. You have a whole Christmas off. You don't have to save 3 days for the days in between. And it's
I
just really
know.
nice.
I remember this. I remember my first Christmas. So I went freelance. So I left my job like in the June. So my first 6 months I'd been in business when it came to Christmas. I'd left the job. And I remember just thinking, like, I decide when I'm going to work for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I thought, I couldn't believe it because before
Yeah.
that I'd worked in hospitality. So you
Oh
always
my
work
goodness.
Christmas.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I ran restaurants. You're working Christmas or New Year or both. You know, there's
Hmm.
not, it's, and for years I'd done that. That was my career. So the fact that I got to decide when I wanted to not work, and that was incredible. I remember
Yeah.
just even now I'm still like because it becomes your new normal. You just get used
Yes.
to it. But
Yeah.
sometimes I remember and I'm just like, ha ha, you know,
That would have been me
well
till
done.
midnight on the 23rd of December. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well done, Joe. I sometimes sort of look back at my previous me when I was, in 20, no, it's 2009. So I look back at that Joe and I think, oh, thank God, like, well done that you decided to go and do it. And you were
Yes.
like, no, I am going to do this thing because I suspect, so I have never really said this, but I think that it's not really the skills that are the most important thing when it comes to running a business and being successful. I think it's courage. It's that,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
you can
it's
learn the
not even the,
skills, you can't learn the courage. You have to have it and use it. It's definitely, you're definitely right.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the more that you do something, the more courage you get. So I think people often wait until they get the courage to do it. But actually, it's the other
yeah,
way around. Like you do something, you go slowly, and then you're like, oh, and then you realize that you can do it. And what
yeah,
you didn't know, you work out. And as you go, you gain confidence. And so I
yeah,
think it's the other way around. But I think that you need the courage you could be the best VA in the world, but if you haven't got the confidence to go and to try new things or to do something or step out of your comfort zone, even as a
yeah,
freelancer, then you'll be less successful than somebody who may have fewer skills than you.
yeah,
They put themselves out there a bit more and test the boundaries of their comfort zone, I
yeah.
think.
I mean, I'm a people person, and that's why I'm a good VA. It's not because of the skills I've got, it's because I like to go out and talk to people. And, when people come looking for a VA, they'll remember that we've built a relationship up. They don't know whether I'm any good as a VA, but they know me as a person and they get to that awful phrase that they use in networking, know, like, and trust. But it's true. It's true. And it is all about having the courage to put yourself out there, like you say, and just sort of
Yeah.
step out your comfort zone.
And it's interesting you say that because I think a lot of people they kind of go, oh, well, I'm an introvert, so therefore I can't be a VA. And you've just said I'm a people person. So I'm actually not a people person. And I know it's really funny, but I've no, that sounds awful saying that, but I am actually quite introverted. When I'm around people, it tires me out. So,
Yeah,
but I'm sort of evidence that you can still set up a business and still put yourself in front of people and talk to them, even
yeah,
if you're quite introverted, because it's more about asking questions. So it's having a conversation. But when you go networking, for example, people love talking about their business. They love
yeah,
talking about why they do what they do. So as a VA, even if you're quite introverted, just by asking the questions, they
yes,
talk, and then you get a better idea of how you can help them.
yeah,
And you know, you don't. Not all my friends are extroverts or introverts. It's a mix of people. It's just
yeah.
being able to talk to people, I suppose, or not being afraid to talk to people because they're
Mm.
just, they're just people.
We're all just the
So,
same.
yeah. It's my dog barking.
Of course it is.
There he goes. I think that is the delivery now going downstairs. Okay, so let's have a look. Number 5. What is the most rewarding part of being a VA? You touched on the freedom there a bit.
Yeah, the freedom. The sense of achievement, the sense of knowing that when the payments start to come in every month, that I've done that, that I am the money's coming in, it's for me and it's for the family, apart from the tax man. But it is just the and when you secure a new client, they've put their trust in you and you start to build that relationship with the client. And it's so lovely when you can see them see the difference that you're starting to make, and they're so grateful and their lives start to become easier. And it's just, I don't think I will ever get fed up of saying when I meet somebody at networking or I meet somebody in life and they'll say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'll say, "I run my own business." And then, "What do you do?" And I'm a virtual assistant. And then a lot of people still don't know that we exist. And I will.
VAs are, it's funny because a lot of people go, but a lot of new VAs, they go, "Oh, it must be a saturated market." And I'm like, definitely not. It's just that because you now are looking into virtual assistants, you're suddenly being
You're seeing it
surrounded by other
everywhere.
virtual assistants.
Yeah.
So to you, the
Um,
whole world is a VA, but then
yeah,
even now,
exactly.
people have never heard of us.
Yeah. And it amazes me now, even when I go to networking meetings and I sit there in front of small business owners and I say I'm a VA and they look at me and as if what? And then you get the joke that I am tired of. "Oh, but you're not a hologram." No, I'm not a hologram. I'm here. So yeah, it's just this sense of it. And I think because I never imagined in my life that I would be a business owner, it never entered into my universe. So now I just feel an immense sense of pride knowing that I still am a business owner and somehow I've managed to keep this going for 3 years and I still love it. It is great, and I know that my parents are incredibly proud of me, and that gives me such a lovely feeling because they were employees their whole lives, and they never thought about being, or maybe they did think about being self-employed. I've never asked the question, but to see how proud they are of me and what I've done, that makes me feel like I've really achieved something.
Yeah, I think there's a similar thing. So I do remember like being a little bit cautious about telling my parents because I thought they were going to sort of go
Yes,
like, no,
yes,
it's more
same.
security to
Yeah,
stay
what
in
are
a
you
job.
doing?
Yeah, and actually it was the opposite. My dad was actually very supportive, and I really thought that he wouldn't be. And it's funny because I often say, my best friend's been made redundant like 5 times.
Yeah.
And I've never been made redundant, obviously, because I work for myself now. And I remember him saying, when I first told him what I was going to do, I remember him saying, because I said, "Oh, I'm a bit worried because I don't get enough clients." And he said, "Well, there's enough people in the world to hire you. There's enough people on the planet." And he's like, "The worst, you might need to get a part-time job for a bit. And then
Yeah,
when
yeah,
there is enough people, there's enough people in the world to hire you." And I thought, yeah, like there's billions, right? So I'm
yeah.
going to only need a few.
Yeah, don't need all of them.
And I think that they're quite proud. My mum is still a bit vague about what I do. So she still isn't really sure, to be honest. But yeah, she's like, something to do with the internet.
Oh, bless.
But my mum worked, she left school to have me. She was only 16 when she had me. So
Wow.
she never really got a proper education. She never went back to school. She had my brother like 9 years later. And so she's always had like lower jobs,
Yeah,
menial jobs, I guess,
yeah,
cleaning and, working behind the till and stuff. And so I think to her, for what I've done, and her family were the same, her mum, my great grandmother, and all of that. I think they'd all be quite proud.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so they should be.
Yes, I think not only as well because of what we've done. One, we've had the opportunities now that they didn't have,
Yeah,
but also we've
yeah,
taken the opportunities. We've
yeah.
taken them,
Because a
which is
lot
a
of
big
people
difference.
think about it, but don't take the opportunity and will always wonder what if. And I never wanted to think, what if? Even if it
Yeah.
had gone wrong, I would have always wondered that.
Yeah, me too. I
Mm.
sort of thought, I remember in jobs just thinking, there's got to be more to this. Like, I felt really underused.
Yeah,
I felt that there was always potential, and I was like, I'm never going to know what it is. Like, there
yeah,
could be something else that I could be doing here that would
yeah,
be really useful to other people as well, but also be fulfilling to me. And I
yeah.
remember saying to my dad once, I want a job that's sort of part of my life. It isn't just something I do and then I come
Yes, and
home.
switch off.
And
Yeah,
yeah, he looked at me. We were in the car, and I remember he just went, "Nobody has a job like that." Like, I mean, he was just like, "Duh!"
Oh,
Like I was a stupid, but he, I mean, he was almost like he was like, "Oh, bless her," like you. No,
but
like
that
this
wasn't
isn't
a
the
thing
way
in
the
their
world.
generation, was it? It wasn't a thing.
Yeah, and even growing up, I didn't know anyone that was self-employed
No,
at
yeah.
all. It was only when I moved to Brighton in my 20s, actually. Okay, so I could talk to you all day. Let's get to the next question. Let's have a look. So that's the most rewarding. What do you think is the most, so question 6, what do you think is the most challenging part of being a virtual assistant and a
Um,
freelancer?
so as much as the work-life balance is the most rewarding, it also is the most challenging because I find that I've always worked hard. I've always been very conscientious. But now that I work for myself, I work harder for me than I've ever worked for anybody else. And it's you have to set boundaries. If the reason that you start doing this is to get a better work-life balance, then you are the one that has to set the boundaries. You are the one that has to say no. You have to make sure that if you don't want to work after school, you don't do it, and your clients know you don't do it. So it's all about learning how to manage yourself because you've not got a boss to tell you what to do and when to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's hard.
it's hard knowing that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm married. My husband has a regular income. But I've worked all my life. I like to earn money. We like to have a certain life that we can, keep our son doing the hobbies he likes and things like that, and to travel to nice places. So I need to know that I can earn a certain amount and that the pressure is on me to bring that money in. No one else is giving me clients. I'm going out there and I'm finding my clients by myself. And if I lose a client, which I have done recently, because for a lot of financial reasons, people are struggling. There's been a lot of changes within government that have made people have to look at their businesses differently. Um, so I've found myself in the situation where I've kind of at the moment got a lot of eggs in one basket, and I haven't been like that before. And things are constantly shifting, and you get comfortable, but then something changes, and you then have to shift your mindset and think, well, hold on a minute, this isn't ideal. So there's a lot of responsibility on you that wasn't there as an employee. And you have to be strict with yourself to make sure that you're not working all the time. I said I wouldn't work at weekends, and I very, very rarely do, unless there's something really urgent. And it's usually on my own business that I would do something like invoicing at the weekend. So if you're the kind of person who struggles with boundaries, struggles to say no, and who isn't motivated to deal with shift and change, then it's not right for you. Stay as an employee where somebody else governs your work
Yes,
life.
I think that because it's not predictable. Like, yeah, that
No.
when you work for a company, you've got a you can kind of cruise through a day often as
Yes.
well. Like,
Yeah.
how much, I think I read somewhere that like the average employee gets like 2.5 hours of work done. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
like
You don't
cushy.
get
And you
that
get,
if you're busy.
got your pension, you've got your holiday pay, sick pay,
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah.
things. The pension particularly, and yeah, when it's just you, you've got to do everything. I'm also very guilty of this. So because I really like working, and I've been doing this since 2000 and well, really 2008, but I left my job in 2009. So this is a lesson that I have learned. It's not even a lesson I've learned clearly because I keep doing it again and again. So I will then overwork myself and then go, oh, I'm getting burnt out, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
affronted, affronted, that I'm working so much. Then actually that I'm the one that put myself in that position. And then I go, I need some time off. And I will actually work at the weekend, but again on my business. And that's usually because I just know that no one else is around. Everyone's busy
Yeah.
doing other things. And
Yeah.
I can really focus personally, but then I will take some time off in the week as well. But because
Yeah.
I think because I like working, you're excited, especially when you first start out. You're just like la la la, and you can't
Yeah.
wait to get to your desk and to do
Yeah.
because you're learning so much every single day.
And you're doing things you enjoy doing that you've chosen to do. And something
Yeah,
that that's just popped into my head as well that's quite I'm a sensitive person and I take everything to heart too much. And one thing that I've struggled with that I've had to really work on myself is if a client leaves you, it is not personal. They don't hate
right.
you. They don't go, I don't like this person. It's a business thing. And because you are the business and the business is you, I struggled a bit to start with understanding that it's not, I'm not the person that it's a personal thing on. And if you are, that's something that can be quite difficult, because when it's a job, you know your place, you're in a workplace and everything is work related. When it's your business and it's you and you're in it and things don't work your way, if the relationship ends, it's not something to take personally, and that's taken a lot of work for me.
Yeah, that is true. And I think again that comes with time.
Yeah,
With the
experience.
DIY course, for example, a lot of that I talk about in the group is mindset. And I'm like, running
Yeah,
the business is kind of the easy bit.
yeah,
But you know, the day-to-day stuff, but like thinking like a business owner does not come naturally, and that will take some time, and you're gonna have like knocks and dings and stuff. And that's you
yeah,
need those to make yourself a strong business owner as well.
yeah.
But yeah, I say to my trainees, I'm like, clients are not for life, which is why you need to keep marketing because
Yes.
things come up. And also, when you were saying about people are struggling, I've always found, you know, I started up in a recession. You know, we've seen the pandemic, etc., happen, and I found that while some businesses will struggle, other ones will
Those,
thrive
yeah,
in
yeah,
that time. So it's not everybody. It's not
yeah,
like, oh, the economy, everyone's doing badly. It isn't the case. Some businesses do exceptionally well when other ones struggle. It's
yes,
and I
yeah.
learned that I kind of learned that it's just swings and roundabouts, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah, clients will come and go. Yeah, definitely.
So, talking about which, number seven, how do you get your clients?
Um, I network. I network a lot. Well, I used to network a lot. I had some health problems for quite a lot of last year, which meant that I couldn't or I didn't want to and didn't really feel up to go into a lot of networking. But I seem to have got myself into the very nice position where most of my clients come from personal referrals, word of mouth.
Mhm.
But that is because I bust a hump to get myself out there. A lot of people I work with are actually local to me. So I've gone out, I've built those relationships, I've sat with people, I've gone for walks, I've turned up at ridiculous hour in the morning to do networking. And I've just gotten to know people. Um, so, and I decided, so last year I applied for a course with our university. Loughborough University has an incubator which work with small businesses, startups, and businesses just looking to grow. So I got a place on that course. Now, I didn't do it to start a business, I did it to grow my network because I knew there was an endless bunch of contacts that these people would have. There's 15 people on my course. There have been 7 cohorts before my course. All these businesses are still in touch with the university, and they're all small businesses. So for me, it's just constantly about building my network, making sure that people know that I'm still there. And yeah, that's how I haven't had to do a lot of marketing. I need to be better at it. It's my one area that I know that I really struggle with.
Do you know, but if people say that, and I'm like, yeah, but just do what works. Like, you know, in the All Stars, we had the 2025 review. And I'm like, don't be like, oh, I need to go and do like social media if actually networking's working really well for you. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's in fact, it's more important, I think, to double down, triple down on what is really working.
yeah,
So if you're getting
yeah.
referrals by not doing anything, imagine how many you'd get if you started
If it did,
asking,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know. So
Yeah,
it's doing more of what's working, I think, and not
yeah,
going, oh, here's a thing I should be doing, and then like, why
yeah.
you've got the results that you want.
Exactly. And that's something which, again, is really important. When I first started, I thought you had to be all things to all people, and I thought you had to be everywhere. So I was on Facebook, I was on LinkedIn, I was on Instagram, I was doing networking. And I realized quite quickly Instagram was not for me. Facebook was not for me. It was networking and LinkedIn. And I knew that's where my clients were hanging out, as you like to say, and that's what I went with, and it's worked. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's quite important at the beginning, actually, just to sort of
Yeah.
find out where they are. And sometimes you do need to go and be in all places for a little bit
To
and
start
then
with,
very
yeah.
quickly assess. And I love what you did where you said that, you know, with Loughborough, that you'd got all the people from before, all the cohorts. So you'd thought about it and been like, how can I get in front of lots of people? And
Yeah.
that's something that I really like. I felt like a detective. I still do, you know,
Yeah.
when you're a business owner, because you're just like, how can I? And then it's a problem that you've got to solve. How do I get in front of the most amount of people? How do
Yeah.
I? And then you
Yeah.
have to work that out for yourself. And then you feel the sense of accomplishment when you
Yeah.
do, because you're not
Exactly.
normally. doing that sort of stuff in a job, you just don't
Yeah,
grow.
yeah. And I've got a client from one of the previous cohorts already within a few
Amazing.
months. So it worked. Hope it continues to work.
Perfect. Good work. So let's have a look. Now you've oh, so question 8. What do you wish you had known before starting out?
That I didn't have to know everything and that all of the things that I was scared of, 90% of them I would never come across. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have. It was great that I did my research and it was great that I joined the groups and read up as much as I could. But I wish I'd been able to drown out the noise. I wish I'd been able to realize that I could just go with my gut and not get sucked into all the discussions. Because the VA industry is so wide. I mean, what you do is completely different to what I do. What I do is completely different to what Anna does. You know, there are VAs out there that just will never, their business is nothing like mine, but people don't see that. People see VA and think everyone's the same. So when you start reading posts
Yeah.
and things, you think, oh my God, I have no idea what that's all about. You don't need to know what that's all about. Focus on what you want to do on your little bit and research that and what you'll need to make that work. And talk to everybody about it. You know, I was kind of scared to talk to people about it and thought, oh, people are going to think it's a bit of a joke. Nobody's thought it's a joke. Everybody thinks it's great and people are interested, and you can talk to somebody and you never know it can end up leading to a client just by having one conversation.
Yes, I've had one of my moderators once actually got some work on jury service
Really? Just by chatting to the people? Yeah.
just by chatting to people
Yeah.
because everyone I people either run a business or they know someone that runs a business. You know, their
Yeah.
sister might run a business. Another moderator I think got some work in like a taxi driver.
Yeah.
You know, they had a business card with them, which is why I'm always like, have a business card with you, a conversation. People always ask, what do you do? Or
Yeah.
where are you going? What are you up to? And by go, and I know another VA that got work, in the dentist by talking to the dentist, a receptionist. It's everywhere. Clients are
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, they really are everywhere. And that's the thing, it's all just about you're not going out to try and build a business, you're just going out to talk to people. So don't get panicked about this. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be a business owner and I'm running a business and I've got no idea how to do that. Don't even think about that. I wish I hadn't even thought about that. I spent too much time and energy worrying about that, and you don't have to really. You will at times, but not to get started.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think even now I see stuff in the group and I'm like, don't know what that is. I have no idea what it is and I don't need
You
to.
don't need to
You know,
know.
No, and this is why I suggest that people always start off with what they know, who they know, the industries that they know,
Yes.
because often there are tools, if they think about it, there are tools that you use in particular industries, different platforms and stuff that other industries don't use. And it's
Yeah.
the same in the group. It's like us, because that VA specializes in that. They work with those types of people.
Yeah.
And often things are the same. So for example, with maybe like a mailing list, I use ConvertKit similar to Active Campaign and to
Yeah.
MailChimp. And
MailChimp
it's
and
like,
yeah.
oh, once you understand one, you kind of go, well, they're all the same. They've just got slightly different features.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's
And
like
this
that.
industry
I
as
mean, one,
well is, and I'm sure it's the same of similar industries, but this industry is so supportive. There will not be a question you will ask that there won't be some lovely person out there that has been in the same situation or knows the answer, and people are willing to give you their time. And it's great. That's been fantastic. I've made some lovely friends through just being a VA.
let's have a look. So we are now, again, we touched on this a bit. Now, question 9 is, how do you balance, like, do you have a work-life balance? Like, we talked about that, but what is it that you put into place in order to have a good work-life balance, or have you not quite yet achieved it?
Um, so there's always room for improvement. My husband's just arrived in the room and he's just given me a look just as you asked that question, because he knows that there's definitely room for improvement. Um, I at times I'll come in and a client has asked me to do something, and I can be very guilty at not switching my laptop off at a certain point in the day when I should. If I was at work, I probably would have switched my laptop off. So It's hard when you're a people pleaser, as a lot of VAs are people pleasers, and we're organisers. So we have in our head, I want to get to this point before I stop. And that's not easy to go against. And when you run your own business as well, it's your business. You can't just walk away like you would switch your laptop off the next and pick it up the next day. But so I don't work at weekends. I have more holidays and I'll take a laptop with me, but I only open it if something goes wrong or I really need to open it. But I really do need to get a bit better at when it's coming towards tea time and I think, right, I've got this to do and this to do and this to do, switch the laptop off. I need to improve on that because yeah.
I find it even harder too because I don't have any children. So there isn't,
You
I
would
can
be
eat
sitting
whenever
there
I
all night if you
like.
did.
I do. I
Yeah.
sometimes do. I mean, sometimes it's a bit more structured, like especially when I lived in Brighton, I might go to the cinema in the afternoon
Yeah.
and then I would work in the evening. So there's that. But because I quite like working, and then I might be like, oh, I might look at this thing online, or I find I can sit here and be at the desk for quite some time.
Yeah.
Um, it's not always that structured, and I've sort of railed against it a few times, rallied against it, and then just gone, do you know what, don't worry about it too much, like you're still getting your work done and it's still, sometimes I've beaten myself up about it, going it should be like this, and I'm like, yeah, but you're okay, and it's not, so it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's really difficult. And the thing is, when we work at home as well, your work is always here. It's too easy to tap into. So
yeah,
it's a case of opening a laptop and you're connected to work straight away. It's not like somebody, I know a lot of people work at home now, but it's more tempting. A lot of the time when you're an employee, you can be going, I'm not turning that on for them. Why would I do that for them at night or whatever? But it's not for them, it's for you. And
yeah,
that makes you look at things really differently.
yeah.
Mm.
And finally, the last question. What advice would you give to anyone considering virtual assistants as a profession?
Oh my goodness, just do it. If you have got, if you have the want to do it, if you are unsatisfied with your current setup with work and life, just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? We all learn when we fail. If we don't fail, we don't learn. And I think we are so terrified to fail because we think it's going to be embarrassing or we think it's just we're never going to recover. And that's just not, life isn't about that at all. So what's the worst that can happen? You could end up turning your life around completely just by making the decision to be brave and step out your comfort zone. I can't even imagine where I'd be now if I hadn't decided to do this. It just doesn't bear thinking about. I would probably be stuck in either some really boring job, having to beg for the afternoon off to go for this, or I can't just nip out for half an hour. Um, or in a job that was really stressing me out and I was having to work ridiculous hours and feeling guilty all the time. It just doesn't bear thinking about. So if you have got the inclination, and I've just gone through this with my best friend, I've just supported her into setting up, and she's doing your course, as I said the other day, she's doing the main course that you have. And do you know what? It's not going to work for everybody. And some people will start and say, this isn't for me. But you might start and it might be the best thing you've ever done. So just be brave and
Yeah.
do it.
Because at least I've had people actually that have started the course and they've gone, okay, so I got to the bit about like working out what I wanted, my services and stuff, and I've realized I'd quite like to be a graphic designer or a web developer. But they've continued the course because it shows you how to set up a business and how to think
Yeah,
like a business owner. The
yeah.
services that you offer are up to you. What it covers branding, it covers money, it covers all the things. If that person decided it's not virtual assistance, but it's identified something else that is
Something in them.
close to
Yeah,
their heart, yeah, they've ended up just setting up a different business. It
yeah,
still worked.
yeah,
I also know many VAs that work part time in a job and have an are a VA part time,
yeah.
and I know people that have two businesses. I know there's a few VAs that have got. There's a couple of cake makers, bizarrely. They've got a cake making
Really?
business,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they're also a VA. So two very different things, and
Yeah,
they
I
do
know
them.
a pet sitter who's also a VA. Yes,
Really?
really
And
flexible.
I know one who's a massage therapist as well. And I think they're two very different things. And it's great
Yeah,
because I guess it fulfills different sides of their personality, their needs. But also, what I love is that you you don't have to do things a certain way, and you're brought up thinking that you do. You get a job, you go to school, and you get a
yeah,
job, and you stay
yeah,
there, and then you're told what to do.
yeah.
You I remember hearing as well that I liked this that instead of getting a salary, really the employer is taking out a monthly subscription on you,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Netflix, you know.
yeah.
So
Until they don't want you
yeah,
anymore, which is, I know we've got the uncertainty of can we go and find clients, but something else I would say quickly is that I have got some incredible associates, and it took me a while to decide to work with associates, but I was having so many inquiries coming in and I couldn't fulfill them. And I work with four amazing associates, and you could be a VA, and if you don't want to go out and find the clients, there are so many VAs out there that do want to go and find the clients, and you can have work fed to you and just be an associate and be really happy with that and earn a good living on that. So don't let that put you off. There are other ways of doing it if you because there's so much uncertainty in employment now. Like you said, your friends been made redundant 5 times. My friend's been made redundant several times. I have. And it's just why put yourself in other people's hands? Put yourself in your own hands. Who's going to look after you better than you?
yes, yeah, exactly. And I've the people, well, because quite a few people have done my course who have been made redundant. And what's interesting about the similarities is that they feel really betrayed. They
Yes.
feel like I was
Yeah.
dedicated,
For
I was
years.
loyal.
Yeah.
For years, I gave them all of this, and they didn't get that back. And I'm like, no, of course you didn't. And so,
No.
but they didn't realize that wasn't going to happen, that they
Yeah.
weren't going to be recognized and appreciated and stay there forever. The fact that they could just be discarded
Yeah.
was hurtful to them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and you don't get that when you work for yourself. And that's also the exciting but also the scary thing. It's just down
Yeah.
to you, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. That's all the 10 questions. I
This has
could
been great.
seriously just talk to you all day long. I love it. So thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Carol.
you.